So I finally got to see Deadpool and Wolverine, and my God, it's amazing. It's just amazing. I'm so happy I got to see this movie. I have tried my best to avoid as many of the leaks and spoilers as possible. Like, the only trailer I saw for Deadpool and Wolverine was the very first one, all right? That was the only one I saw because I did not want to be spoiled for this movie. And leave it to Disney to keep over promoting this movie so much. I'm like, guys, please, for the love of God, stop spoiling the movie. Just calm down. Like, calm down with all this over promotion, man. Like, you're doing too much. But basically, I tried my best to walk into this movie blind, and thank God I did, because this movie is so amazing. I'm so happy with this movie. Like, ever since I walked out of this film, I just kept telling myself, this is what the MCU should have been after Endgame. Like, this is what the MCU needs to be after Endgame. Like, I just don't understand why the MCU keeps wasting our time with so many, like, unpopular characters when they have such a famous roster of heroes and villains that they could just keep pulling out from the comics. Like, everyone for the longest time have been complaining since Endgame, where are the X-Men? Where are the Fantastic Four? Where are other iconic characters like Ghost Rider and Blade? And I feel like with this movie, it's trying its best in a way to catch up and be like, hey, we're not giving up. We're trying to get back in the saddle and actually bring out the really famous characters, really iconic characters that you guys love. Now, I, for one, I'm so happy with this film. I'm trying my best not to spoil this film for y'all, but all I'm going to say is what I liked about it and what I didn't like about it, all right? Let me tell you the good parts about this movie, because they're a lot more than the bad ones, right? So Deadpool and Wolverine have an amazing camaraderie. I love the chemistry these two characters have. They're just so hilarious together. They're just great together. Like, thank God Hugh Jackman decided to come out of retirement for this film, because to me, at never once do I feel like Hugh Jackman is phoning it in, or he's just like doing it just to collect the check. Like, there are performances of Wolverine in this film that I'm like, man, Hugh Jackman is giving it his all. And I was worried about that because Logan was supposed to be the send-off. Logan originally was Hugh Jackman's last film as Wolverine before Ryan Reynolds convinced him to come back for Deadpool and Wolverine. For me, what I love about this film is how much, like, Wolverine is not really used as just like a prop or whatever. Like, he is his own character in this film. He is his own person. And he has his own struggles as well. And with this film trying its best to be a continuation of Deadpool's story, but also bringing in another variant of Wolverine so that does not dishonor of the Logan film, I just love this film. I love the way these two interacted in this film, and thank God, like, these two characters just work so well together. Another part of the film that I really, really loved is the cameos, but also the fact is that this film is not like, oh, this guy popped up, then this girl popped up, then this guy popped up, then these people popped up. It's not like that. It's not like a meet and greet. No, like, the characters that show up in this film actually serve a purpose in the story. They actually are utilizing the story really well. And a lot of these characters are used in the story as a way to continue Deadpool and Wolverine's journey. Now, of course, you'll get the occasional cameo that's meant to be as a joke, but at the end of the day, that is what it is, a joke. But most of the cameos in this film are actually meant to be a continuation of the story. And that's what I love about it, is that at no point do I feel like all of the guest characters showing up are underutilized. In my opinion, I feel like Deadpool and Wolverine uses up all of the characters in this film pretty well. And they're not just, window dressing, or they're not just like jingling keys. They're actually used in this story pretty well. And another part that I really love about this movie is that it is a love letter to the Fox era of Marvel. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, keep in mind that this film doesn't just reference the MCU, but it references heavily the Fox X-Men. It references heavily other Marvel movies outside of the MCU. And when you watch the film, this really isn't a spoiler, but during the credits, while the credits are rolling, there's a montage of all of the behind the scenes with the actors and the camera crew and all the people working on the Fox Marvel movies, and how they basically were back in the day, starting all the way back to like the first X-Men movie in the 2000s, and how much they showed that montage for the last like 20 years of all the Fox Marvel movies and all the actors and crew members working behind the scenes as a way of like a beautiful love letter to the Fox era and saying goodbye to that era. And I feel like Deadpool and Wolverine tries his best as a way to say, thank you for everything. Thank you for this journey. Now let's move on to the next step in our journey. I'm not going to lie to you guys. That montage where it showed the actors and the crew members behind the scenes making the Fox Marvel movies, it got me a little bit emotional. I was like, man, this hits so close to home because I grew up on these films. I love the Fox X-Men films. Although some of them are pretty bad, a lot of them are really great, and I love those movies. So I like the fact that they added that into the film. And another thing I want to say is, this film has an amazing soundtrack. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. This film has such an amazing soundtrack. I started listening to some of the music on the way home because it was at like, thank God Spotify has all the songs in like on their playlist. But man, I love it. Like for like they used bye bye bye. You know, like I'm happy that they used all of these type of songs in this film. Like they were like if you think Guardians of the Galaxy has a great soundtrack, like Deadpool is giving it a run for its money. That whole montage made me want to dance. But basically, there's a great moment in the film where they use Madonna's Like a Prayer. And I'm not gonna lie to you, man, I was singing Like a Prayer in the theaters. And there was a moment where it reaches where they got the choir, like the chorus is being sung by this choir. It made me feel like I was in church, bro. I was singing like I was in that choir. I just love this film. I'm so happy with this film. Thank God that this film was good because I feel like Marvel really needed a W. Like they really, really needed a film to come in and revitalize the fan base to love the MCU again. Because recently, like, I don't know what's been going on behind the scenes. It's been misstep after misstep. You know, we got quantity over quality. We got a lot of rush projects, a lot of projects being delayed, like Fantastic Four and Blade. I still don't understand why Fantastic Four and Blade took so long to be made when when those are like iconic characters. Like those were the movies that I would put all my focus on first, rather than just like waste my time with new characters that are less known. Now, going on to the cons, I will say this. Although this movie is the longest Deadpool movie, I wish it was a little bit longer. Is it really a con to say, man, I wish this movie was longer because I love it so much? That's all I got. That's the really biggest complaint I had. Granted, the runtime never felt slow to me. Like this movie, like it goes by really, really well. But I guess my complaint is that I wanted more. But the runtime for me felt pretty well. It was never once do I feel like it was taking too long or was being rushed. It was like in a really good middle area. The other complaint I do have about this movie is that if you're not a big MCU fan and if you're not a big X-Men fan from like the Fox era, then most likely you haven't watched some of the films that take place before this movie, because Deadpool and Wolverine isn't just Deadpool 3. It's not just the end of Deadpool's trilogy. It's a continuation of a lot of other movies, and it references a lot of other movies and also like projects that the MCU has made. So I feel like the most important like films and show that you need to watch before you watch this movie are obviously Deadpool 1 and 2. You gotta watch those two movies. The other one is Logan. Regardless of whether you will or will not watch Deadpool and Wolverine, Logan on its own is a phenomenal film. It is an outstanding film. It is peak cinema. You should watch Logan, period. But Logan is one of the films that you should definitely watch before watching Deadpool and Wolverine. And the other one is Loki Season 1. I don't think you need to see Loki Season 2, but obviously if you start watching Loki Season 1, you might like get invested in the story that you will move on to watch Season 2. But Loki Season 2 is not necessary. Loki Season 1, however, really is necessary before watching Deadpool and Wolverine, because Loki Season 1 already establishes the TVA, how they run, how they work. It also establishes Alioth and the end of time, the void, I guess what they call it, where Alioth roams around and eats people and objects. I highly recommend that you watch Loki Season 1 as well. Now, with those, but those are the 3 necessary movies and the 1 necessary show. The other films that I feel like should be on the list, but take less priority, I guess you could say these are the secondary resources. The primary resources are obviously Deadpool 1 and 2, Logan, and Loki Season 1. But the secondary resources I recommend you should watch before you watch this film are the original X-Men trilogy. I feel like you should definitely watch that. So I guess we're gonna enter spoiler. We're gonna enter a little bit of the spoiler section. All right. So the other things you should watch when it comes to this film, and I feel like to get the full experience, to get the full package, because we're gonna enter spoiler section now, is, the secondary resources are the Fantastic Four movies. Only watch the first 2 Fantastic Four films that came out in the 2000s. The other films you should definitely watch before this are Blade and Elektra and Daredevil. Now, me personally, like Blade 1 and 2 are amazing. You should definitely watch them on their own. I highly recommend it regardless of Deadpool and Wolverine. But like to get some of the jokes, you would kind of have to watch Blade Trinity, even though that film is hot garbage. A lot of people think it's trash. Rightfully so. Blade Trinity is a bad movie. Blade Trinity for me is like a guilty pleasure. For some reason, I like watching it even though I know it's trash. Daredevil is an okay film. It has that cheesy 2000 vibe to it, like the edginess of it. Elektra is just a bad film overall, but again, they're kind of referencing this film as well. And obviously the other Fox X-Men films, if you want to go down the rabbit hole. If you want, but I feel like the only necessary ones you gotta watch when it comes to the Fox X-Men films are Logan and the X-Men trilogy. Spoiler section over. This is what I think, all right? Now, if you're a fan of Deadpool, you probably don't need to listen to me. Just go watch this film. If you're a fan of the MCU, you probably don't want to listen to me. Go watch it. But for me, I feel like this is the MCU film that you should definitely check out. I know that a lot of MCU films have been hit and miss lately. Like, for example, when I went to go see the Marvels, when I walked out of that theater, I was like, you know what? I'd rather watch that on Disney Plus than go see it in theater and pay a full price ticket for it. But Deadpool and Wolverine is that MCU film that you need to go see in theaters, and go watch it with a large crowd. I recommend watching with a large crowd. Unfortunately, I saw it with a smaller crowd because I went early in the morning, but go watch it with a large crowd. Because, man, keep in mind, my theater was like half empty because I saw it really early in the morning. But even in that theater, when people started showing up, when iconic characters started showing up, we were losing our mind. Like, we would still hear people cheer and shout and screaming out, "Let's go." So even in a half empty theater, people were still getting hyped seeing all these iconic characters and seeing all these iconic moments happen. With that being said, Deadpool and Wolverine for me is a perfect 9 out of 10. There are a few flaws that I have with it, but for me, it's a 9 out of 10. I love it. It's amazing. Go watch this film. It is worth checking out. It's one of the Marvel films that you need to go see in theaters. I know a lot of Marvel movies have been hit and miss lately, but this is a one that you do not want to miss. Go out and see it. And with that being said, please like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more. Comment down below what was your favorite part of this movie? Who was your favorite surprise cameo? Or what was a moment that stuck out for you? And I'll see you in another video. Peace.